a very, very warm welcome to each one of you who's taken the time out to attend our webinar today. The primary point of our webinar is to explain what the skilled residence pathway for New Zealand is all about and what are the options and opportunities there for people to sort of make that dream come true. So if you're looking to migrate to New Zealand, what sort of options are available for you? We will talk about the new skilled migrant instructions that that was introduced in October of last year, and what that sort of means, what are its implications. We will also touch upon the green list occupations and what are their options for taking you to residence. And finally, if there is no clear pathway under either one of these, then we will talk about a third option, which is going to be the rabbit that we will pull out of a hat. And we'll talk about a good sort of pathway for people who may not meet all the residence instructions off the bat. To give a brief introduction about ourselves, we are a group of licensed immigration advisors. We are Immigration Advisors New Zealand Limited. We are bringing this webinar to you from three parts of this world. So we've got somebody based in India, we've got a person based in the UAE, and we also have somebody all the way from New Zealand. So it's a good mix of people from at least three parts of the world here. And the speakers for today would be primarily Ms. Vandana Rai, who is our senior licensed immigration advisors with Immigration Advisors New Zealand. We also have with us Siddharth, who is our partner based in the UAE, and I am Tanuva Majumdar Bose, and I am also a licensed immigration advisor working with Immigration Advisors New Zealand Limited. So without further ado, I will just start off. So as I said, a team of licensed immigration advisors. So Immigration Advisors New Zealand Limited is based in Auckland, and we have a group of 4 licensed immigration advisors on the team, all of who are specialized in processing all categories of visa applications, be it temporary entry or residence. We have presence in 8 countries, including India, the UAE, New Zealand. We also have presence in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and the Philippines. We are members of NZAMI and also members of IANZ. Now, as I said, the scope of our webinar today was going to be talking about the skilled residence pathways, and where we will talk about this new skilled migrant category pathway, the green list pathway, and the sector agreements pathway. So with this, I will hand over the presentation to Vandana. So Ms. Vandana, welcome, and thank you so much for making the time. I know it's very late in New Zealand. The floor is all yours, Vandana.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Tanuva. Thanks, Siddharth, for arranging and organizing this. And thank you all attendees for being here today. Definitely, New Zealand has a very clear pathway to residence. And we are glad that there is so much of an interest from all those skilled professionals. So the reason when the changes happened last year, the aim was, or the intent was, to attract the skills that New Zealand requires. And as we move on, and as you will see, a lot of these changes have been done with the aim of targeting highly skilled professionals like you who would like to have a surety on their pathway as they move on, and New Zealand definitely offers that. So if I briefly tell you about the 3 paths of the leading to residence, the first one, the New Zealand skilled migrant category pathway, which requires 6 points as a threshold. The second one is the green list pathway. A lot of jobs are highly in demand here, and those jobs will be listed in the green list pathway. And we also have the sector agreements. Thanks. If we move on to the next one, please. Okay, so the new skilled migrant category, what are the highlights here? So it's a new point-based system. The previous point-based system that Immigration New Zealand had required 180 points, and it required points from a lot of things and seemed to be a bit complicated for applicants. So the current one is a very straightforward, requires somebody to have 6 points to be eligible. It's a more straightforward pathway. Um, Another change which has really happened here is that a skill job or a job offer is one of the mandatory requirements here. Earlier, somebody would still qualify without a job offer, but no more. So if you're thinking of having a pathway here in New Zealand, first thing that you need to be sure of is, do you have the skills to get a straight job offer here in New Zealand? If yes, definitely this is a workable pathway. If not, we will definitely offer you alternate paths, which would eventually also help you secure a job offer as you move on. Another good thing is that there is no cap on the numbers that could be approved under this policy. Earlier, there being a cap on the number of applications which can be approved on residents, which could be approved, led to a lot of delay in processing, led to a lot of backlog in the processing. So no more. It will never happen. We are seeing decisions coming within weeks of application submissions. The time frames have come down, and as we move on, we'll tell you more about the other facts. So, Tanva, if we can move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so how do we reach these 6 points to be eligible? So, how can you claim these 6 points? You can claim 3 out of the 6 points from one of these things that are listed on the slide. So, it could be your occupational registration in New Zealand. It could be your qualification. If it's a qualification, it has to be a bachelor's degree or higher, or it could be based on the income that you're getting with the job offer. If your income is 1.5 times the median wage rate in New Zealand. So the median wage keeps changing every year. So if you have a job offer 1.5 times the median, that is one option. The important thing is you can only claim points from one out of these three skill indicators. And the maximum points you could get here could be even 6 at times based on the qualification or things. And you can then, whatever points are remaining for you to reach a 6 points threshold, you can claim for your for out of your skilled work experience in New Zealand. Again, you can claim a maximum of 3 points under the skilled work experience in New Zealand. So if I give examples here, somebody who has a master's, which is assessed as a level 9 here in New Zealand, will give them 5 points. And then all they would need is 1 year of skilled work experience in New Zealand to be then eligible to apply for this residence visa. So that makes a total of 6 points. Or if somebody has a bachelor's, which will give them 3 points, then they would need to work in New Zealand in a skilled occupation with an accredited employer for 3 years to get the remaining 3 points. Now, there are a few other factors that you have to be aware of, and maybe it could get a bit confusing for you if I give more details here. Something like if you're getting a job offer, it has to be in a skilled position. The job offer should be in ANSCO 1, 2, and 3 on the ANSCO framework. You should be working for an accredited employer. The job should be permanent, ongoing, or if it's a fixed term, at least a 12 months fixed term contract. So there are a few other factors that you should be aware of. And if we are authorized, or if you instruct us, we do check on all these things before we decide to let you know if you're meeting the eligibility or not. So yeah, the moment you get 6 points is when you can submit the application for residence. Another good thing is you can include your family in your application. So your partner, your dependent children under the age of 25 could be included in the application as well. So that not only gives the option for you, but also for the family to get the residence here. If we move on to the next slide, please.
Yeah, so I've just got the skilled employment slide on the screen for everybody to have a look at. This is pretty much what Vandana was talking about, the requirements that your skilled employment need to meet. So if you just want to quickly have a look at it, I think it might not make a lot of sense right now, but just from the point of view of what we just talked about.
So something that you really have to be mindful of is a skilled employment in New Zealand is one of the mandatory requirements. So even if you have 6 points, so something like a PhD qualification can give you 6 points straight away. So even if you have 6 points straight away, when you wanting to apply for a residence visa under this category, you need to have a job offer. And as the slide listed, the job offer should be with an accredited employer. It should be a full-time employment. Full-time employment in immigration instructions is at least 30 hours a week, and score 1 to 3. With the median wage rate, if it's ANCO 4 and 5, 1.5 times the median wage rate, and a permanent contract or a fixed term contract at least of 12 months is what the instructions require. Yeah. A bit of complicated in the initial phases, but don't worry, if we are assisting, we would make sure that your employment contract kind of ticks all the boxes that the instructions require. Other requirement other than that is your age. So you need to be age 55 or under to be eligible to apply for a residence under skilled categories. You must meet the English language requirement. The requirement is 6.5 bands in IELTS or an equivalent English score, and must meet the health and character requirements. So that are the other requirements to be eligible.
So just here, if you could request Vandana, if you could talk about a little bit about the green list, the green list pathway as well. So what is the green list and how that sort of process works? I think our viewers might be quite interested in understanding that as well.
Okay, so green list is a list of occupations that immigration has listed on their website. They've come out with the list, and this list is of occupations that are highly in demand here in New Zealand. So New Zealand requires people to come and work in those occupations. That's what the green list, and it is an ever-changing list. They would keep adding on occupations. They will keep removing occupations based on what the current set of requirement is. So the green list has occupations like, and there are two pathways on the green list. One is a straight to residence path, and other is the work to residence path, tier 1 and tier 2. So occupations like secondary school teachers have recently moved on the tier 1, that is straight to residence, because extreme shortage of secondary school teachers. Doctors, nurses, a lot of IT professionals, a lot of engineering roles are all on the straight to residence pathway. So if you are an engineering professional, if you have worked in IT field for a number of years and you are highly skilled in that role, if you are a teacher, a health professional, probably a better idea to get in touch with us, and we can then check whether your skill sets align with any role that is in the green list. So how that works is, if you get a job offer, like I previously said, a job offer is one of the mandatory requirements for any residence application to be submitted. So if you have skills in a role which is listed on the green list, doesn't mean that you would be eligible to apply unless you have a job offer. So you do need a job offer there. And similarly, if you're not getting a job offer, we do have alternate options on different other visas, which will then allow you to come to New Zealand and eventually get an open work visa, and then be in a position to get a job offer and then move on to a residence application. So anything you would like to add on here, Tanuva?
No, just one thing that was very, very clear, I guess, for both sort of residence pathways is that a job offer or a skilled offer of employment from New Zealand is pretty much the absolute mandatory requirement. It doesn't matter under which category of residence you're applying under. Getting that job offer in place and something that is skilled is very important. And one of the differences, I guess, between the skilled migrant category and our green list pathway is that the green list pathway doesn't have a point system, but the occupation needs to be on the green list and you need to meet the requirements for that occupation as per the list. Whereas for our skilled migrant category, there is no list as such, but you just need to meet that 6 points requirement. So that's the difference. But the common factor sort of underlying it is that the skilled offer of employment is pretty much absolutely mandatory.
Thanks so much. And as we move on, how do you prepare? So you have the interest, you definitely want to see what your options are, want to consider relocating. but you need to be very sure. So how do you start? First thing that you need to start off with is getting your qualifications assessed by NZQA. So what is NZQA? NZQA is New Zealand Qualification Authority. So this is the body which assesses overseas qualifications to check if they where do they align with New Zealand standards. So first thing is to then check maybe your qualification, your overseas qualification is exempt from assessment. So there are some universities which for which you don't need a NZQ assessment. For others, you do. So first thing you do is get the assessment done to then see where do you stand. So if you have a qualification which is listed as one of the requirement for a green list occupation, you can then consider or start looking for jobs in the green list. If you have a qualification which is not listed in the green list for any occupation as a required qualification, you then see how many points will you get for your qualification. PhDs can give you 6 points. A master's can give you 5 points. A PG diploma level 8 can give you 4 points. A bachelor's can give you 3 points. And you definitely need 3 points or higher to be then eligible for an alternate path. So if that is what it is, then you could see what is your chance of getting a skilled employment in NZ while being offshore. And when doing so, we've seen applicants who do manage if they have a lot of experience in a relevant field, or at times they do manage to get a job offer while trying from offshore, and not, a lot of times they may not. So you definitely need to try getting a job, a skilled job while being offshore, if that works. And if that works, you need to then see whether the job that you are getting or the work experience you have is aligning with what the residence instructions are. If it is a green list occupation, do you have all that is required? So for certain IT roles, there would be a salary threshold. Do you have that? For some for some green list roles, there may be specific registrations required. So do you have that? Or in some cases, you try for a month, you try for 2 months, and you realize it's getting a little difficult, because when you send an application, you think you are qualified, you have all the skills that the employer has advertised for, but then the employer has put a thing there as a requirement that you must have a valid visa to work in New Zealand. Then how does it work? Because unless somebody supports you, you can't get that job. But unless you get that job, how do you apply for that visa? It's more like a chicken and egg situation at times. And if you get into that, then definitely you need to have a backup plan. What is the backup plan? Mm, for a lot of our clients, backup plan is a student visa application. So how it works is, if you then see, okay, I am getting a job, I'm getting shortlisted, but I'm not, nobody is ready to support me, because they do need me to have a work right to be able to get that job. Then the alternate path could be, okay, should I consider student visa? Should I consider upskilling? If that is, if in a family one of the partners, or if you are a single applicant, you decide to do a master's program. I'm giving you example as a master's program, because that works out very well with a lot of families. So if you're doing a master's program, you get 5 points. You may have 5 points based on your overseas qualification itself, but how it really helps is, after a master's qualification here in New Zealand, you get a post study work visa. You don't need a job offer for that work visa. You get this work visa for 3 years. So you get a 3 years post study work visa with open work conditions. What that means is, you can work for any employer anywhere in New Zealand in any occupation. So the moment you apply for a job, then with this open work visa, you're more likely to get a job, because you already had the skills. It was just that the employers did not want to support your application. They just wanted you to have a work visa. And then if you have this work visa, you need 1 year of skilled work experience to be then eligible to apply for your residence visa. So out of those 3 years, if you can get a skilled employment even for a year, you can then move ahead and apply for a residence application. And how it helps the families also. You can bring your family while you study. If you have a partner partner can apply for a work visa, a partnership based work visa while you study. So while you are studying, partner can work full time in any occupation. If you have dependent children, if you have kids, kids can study for free. It's called a domestic fee paying student visa. So that and they study for free uh, for till secondary sector, like till they have they move on into a tertiary studies like university, not for universities and colleges, universities and tertiary studies, but we call colleges till year 13. So the dependent children till year 13 can study for free. So a lot of clients, when they do not get a job offer from offshore, consider this route because then you can relocate as a family. You can relocate as a family. One person studies and the partner gets work rights. Eventually, both of you get work rights, and the moment you have the required points or a green list occupation, can apply for residence visa. Another way it has really helped a lot of our clients is I'm talking about married couples here. So if the one who is on a partnership based work visa while the student is studying, a lot of times that partner who is already a skilled professional manages to get a job and lands into a position where they can then submit a residence application while the student visa holder is still studying the course. So you don't have to move in a sequence like finish your study, move on to the work visa, and then residence. It doesn't work that way. If the partner gets a skill job and you are eligible, straight away the partner can apply, the student being included. We've even helped a lot of students who get a job while they are studying, and instead of applying for a post-study work visa, because that job was in a straight to residence pathway, they straight away applied for residence instead of a post-study work visa. So that works as well. So then you have multiple options moving on for you. You also have an option of applying for an accredited employer work visa while you are here, or even from offshore if you get a job offer. And the good thing is you definitely can also include the family in all these applications and can think of relocation as a family.
Thanks. I guess Panna, this study to residence pathway. I mean, people might not think about it like who studies to get residence. I mean, it's a big you'd be frowning upon it, but it is actually a very legitimate and actually a fairly clean sort of pathway that can lead to residence. I mean, you get a master's degree at the end of your qualification, which is a sure shot 5 points. You may have done a master's overseas, but you never know whether that's going to get assessed as a master's degree at level 9. So you are you'll always be in a dilemma whether that is going to get you the 5 points or not. But you do a master's degree from New Zealand, that's definitely 5 points all in the bag for you. And as Vanna said, 3 years of post-study work visa, you get even 1 year of skilled work experience, and you're well on your way to doing residence. uh, but I think one of the things that sort of stood out, and I would like to, sort of focus on that a little bit more, which is what Vanna said about, if the partner who is actually on an open work visa is able to get a job and it's skilled, and I mean, especially if that person is able to get a job in, in one of the green list sort of occupations, then you don't even have to wait till you complete your education. It doesn't need to be a sequential movement. You can immediately sort of apply for residence. And I think that sort of tells you the value of actually, consulting with an immigration advisor right at the beginning of your process, because we will actually look at your case fairly holistically and tell you what are the various different options that are available to you right from the word go. And then that how you're going to how you're going to sort of go through the steps, so that there is, well, I wouldn't say a short, but definitely a semi a short pathway to getting to residence. So whilst there are a lot of student advisors, and they will tell do this course, do that course, but it is always helpful to actually meet with somebody and to actually consult with someone who can give you the entire picture, the whole big picture about considering what are your skills, what are your already existing qualifications, what are your existing skills, and how you can use that to to your benefit, and to get the maximum out of it, so to speak. Wouldn't that be right, Vanna?
No, definitely, yes. And as Tanuva mentioned, the importance of having a discussion or getting a licensed immigration advisor involved from the start is that if we talk about how we help our clients, if it's a family, we would sit with them and see, okay, who has a better chance of getting a job right away in New Zealand with their existing skill set, and if that person should definitely come here on an open work visa. That means if the other person studies, um, the the person who's got more chances of getting a job is likely to get a job much faster. So let's not just go in the sequential manner and see a way out where you as a family can move on to the residence path the fastest, and that is what the aim is. Um, or then deciding what are your skill gaps, working together with you to identify. If you have to study, then you rather study something which eventually adds on to your career progression and gets you in a better career progression pathway. So then identifying what the skill gaps is, which courses would help you make or meet those skill gaps, and then eventually get, or what are the roles that are highly in demand here. So if you study that, probably you have more chances. So a lot of times we sit and we have this discussion with our clients just to make sure that they make the right decision, even if it is to study. The decision to what to study, who should study, where to study is definitely is one of a very important thing that has to be well researched decision.
Great. So that sort of brings us to the end of our, and end of the slides that we had sort of prepared to give information around what are the various residence options and how, the various pathways also leading to that residence option. We've collected a few questions that we had received from some of our registrants. So I'm going to just sort of put that up on the screen. We will go through these questions, and I also see a lot of you have asked questions in the Q&A box as well. So I will get to that next, but we'll just start off with some of the questions we've sort of selected, beforehand, and we'll have Vandana answer some of them. So first was, can overseas qualifications be assessed by NZQA and points claimed?
Yeah, definitely yes. Maybe your qualification doesn't require NZQ assessment, so you may check that. But yes, overseas qualifications could be assessed by NZQ, and based on the assessment, the points can be claimed.
Does someone who can claim 6 points by having a PhD still need a skilled job or job offer in New Zealand?
Yeah, that's the major change that has happened with this new policy. So you get the points what it is needed to be the meet the threshold, but you still need a job offer. So without a job offer ticking all the boxes in the instructions, you really can't move on that pathway. Yeah.
The next one was, can points be claimed for overseas work experience? I guess the short answer to that is no. And that's essentially also another difference, I guess, in the old skilled migrant category instructions and the new ones. Because under the old one, you could still claim points for overseas work experience. But under the new skilled migrant policy, you will all of that work experience which you would like to claim points for needs to have been undertaken in New Zealand. Anything else we could add to that, Vanna?
I know, I think you've covered everything, and I can take the next question so we move a bit faster. I see a lot of live questions there as well.
Yeah.
So can periods of full-time skilled work experience on a student visa be counted towards overall New Zealand skilled work experience? So your full-time work rights are important. So when you are claiming points for your work experience here in New Zealand, a lot of things have to be considered. So you need to have full-time work rights. You really can't bank on the short holiday periods because it will not reach where you want to go. So definitely, if you're doing a master's by research, you have full-time work rights, and you're working in a position with full-time employment agreement. Definitely, you can bank on that. Yeah.
Okay. What visa do I need to be on to accrue points for skilled work experience? So that will be any visa that allows work. So it could be an open work visa, it could be a partner-based work visa, it could be a post-study work visa. But your visa needs to allow you to work full time. And if you are on that visa, then whatever work experience you gain be by working on that visa, you're able to accrue points. The important one other important thing is that work experience needs to be in skilled employment and should also be paying you the median wage, which is applicable at the time.
Yeah. I take the next one. I'm planning to study a master's degree. What are the options for me? So I've covered that previously, but I'll again cover that. So if you're doing a master's program, partner can apply for a partnership-based work visa if the partnership instructions are met. Partner in that case will have open work conditions, can work in any employment, any number of hours in any occupation, and dependent children will be eligible to apply for a domestic fee-paying student visa, and yeah, and these options remain for family even when you move on to the post-study work visa.
I'm working or have been offered a role in New Zealand, but not getting paid the median wage. What are my options? I think I'll leave that with you, Vandana.
So if you're on a you're not getting paid the median wage rate, a few things that you have to see. Okay, what is the maximum continuous stay that I have? So because in New Zealand, if you are on an accredited employer work visa, you cannot keep working for many years. Like in a lot of Middle East countries, you could be on a work visa for years and years, one after the other. And that doesn't happen in New Zealand. In New Zealand, a good thing is that the immigration has the change that they have made is they don't want workers to feel that they've established a life here, which is like a permanent thing. They want to see work visa as a temporary sector. So if somebody, and we know that if you're not getting the median wage rate, there's no pathway to residence. So that means the person need to then see, how do I upskill myself? What will make me get the median wage rate? Another salary, I change role. If I don't have the skill sets to reach to the median wage rate, maybe I upskill and study something which takes me where it would, get me the median wage rate. So I have a pathway to residence. So for that person, definitely need to see, where is my pathway to residence? How do I reach there?
So I'm now going to stop sharing my screen, and we will head off into the Q&A because there are quite a few of them. Okay, so we've got somebody who's asking, I'm a neurologist and my wife is an ophthalmologist. What are our options for immigration and working in New Zealand as a neurologist and ophthalmologist? Can you suggest a path?
Yeah, I can take that. So I see we will not be really able to take too much of specific questions here. But what I could tell you is, do get in touch. To me, it seems these are registered occupations. So first thing we would definitely need to see is, do you have a New Zealand registration? If not, what are the paths for you to seek a New Zealand registration? If you can manage a New Zealand registration for that occupation, can you get a job in that role? If yes, then probably we can help you towards that direction. If not, then what is plan B? We could again help you in that plan B as well. So we'll really request you to send in your details, fill in the link that we're putting in the chat section here, and we would definitely get in touch to provide you a more tailored advice to you.
The next one is, in SMC category, can I claim for points before qualification? I guess no. You'll have to complete the qualification to be able to claim points. Okay. So, is the income requirement 1.5 times the median at the time of job contract, or 1.5 times the median at the time of SMC application? I think this is a very valid question.
Okay, I'll take that. So if it's 1.5 times the median wage rate, when you start working in that role is when you need to have the 1.5 times the median, whatever was the median wage rate at that time. So currently 31.61 is the median wage rate. So if somebody starts working today, this is what 1.5 times this median wage rate, if you get, you can start claiming points for that. And whenever you are, and then median wage rate can go up in a year's time, in few months, whatever, your employer doesn't need to change your remuneration every time, and you would still get the points needed, or that period will still be covered. But very important thing for you to consider is when you are wanting to apply for your residence visa, at that point, whatever is the median wage rate, again, you should be getting 1.5 times the median at that point for you to be then eligible to apply for residence. That's one thing. Second thing, if you start working with an employer with 1.5 times the median, but maybe after 1 year you want to change employment, but you still want to keep claiming the points for this experience, then the new employer that you would join, uh, when you start a new employment, at that point, whatever was the median, you need to get 1.5 times the median wage rate at that point. So uh, sometimes people do think of options where, or they consider whether 1.5 times the median and working years on that is a better option, or maybe to get a master's is a better option, because then the work experience duration may be much, much lesser. So another thing for this attendee to consider here, I think.
Thanks, Vanna. There is somebody who is asking for options for residents if they are for 57 years old. But as we mentioned, you have to be below 56, so 55 or under. To be eligible. So that's the age threshold for residents under the skilled category. So if you've crossed 55, if you've crossed 56, or you've turned 56, or you're over 56, then you actually wouldn't be eligible for, at least not under the skilled category, you wouldn't be eligible for residence. Okay. So Vanna, we do have a couple of nurses who have said that they have done, a GNM course and are registered nurses and are registered nurse, and they're registered in India. So what would be sort of the best option for them? What are the pathways available for them for this under the skilled migrant?
Okay, so definitely we could assist these nurses. The first option, like I conveyed for them, is to get their registration sorted in New Zealand. So if you have a registration, nursing council registration in any country like India, and you worked as a registered nurse for 2 years post your registration, definitely we could help you reach or let you know the things that would lead you to your New Zealand registration requirements. So whether it is licensing with CGFNS, whether it is basically to get your decision letter, get your registration exam sorted, we can guide you on that process. So there is a process which can lead to overseas registration, and get your New Zealand registration sorted, or getting a New Zealand registration based on your overseas nursing registration. Once you have the New Zealand nursing council registration is when you can start looking for a job as a registered nurse. And the moment you have a job as a registered nurse being in straight to residence, you can straight away apply for your residence visa. You cannot apply for a residence visa if you get a job offer but you don't have a registration to work as a nurse in New Zealand, and nobody would even give you a job offer as a nurse if you don't have that registration. So first thing a lot of these nurses will have to sort out is, and for nursing registration, I'm sure these nurses would be aware of, is they need to meet the English language proficiency requirements. So 7 bands and a few exceptions and all the required OET score is something that you should be meeting, and we can guide you on that process if you're interested. Yeah.
Okay, the next question is about to claim the 1 point with MBA. Do we have to work for 1 year under an accredited employer and meet the medium wage rate? Okay, I guess that is the median wage rate. And yes, so if your MBA is one that has been, or that is assessed as a level 9 master's degree, then you will get the 5 points. And to get that one additional point to meet the residence criteria, the work experience needs to be with an accredited employer and earning at the median wage rate, which, as Vandana mentioned, is currently at $31.61 per hour. But you'll obviously need to check what it is at the time that you are applying for residence. Okay, Vandana, there were a few questions about the transport sector as well. So, there a couple of our viewers here would like to know what are the options for residents, or what is the residence pathway for those working in the transport sector, like drivers, crane lifters, etc.
So this pathway is now closed for new people coming and working in these roles. So if you're already working in one of those roles which are listed there, be it a bus driver or a truck driver with class 4 or 5 or whatever it was your requirement, if you're already in this role, is what this pathway is still open for you. For those who are you were thinking of coming and working in a role so that they could eventually apply for residence. So the recent policy change on the 7th of April has closed this pathway. So no new um, people working in this role would have a pathway to residence. So something that you would have to be aware of or and work on the alternatives then.
Um, okay, we do have a couple of people, engineers. So, for instance, an electronics and communication engineer, how do you see their uh, potential for getting for being for qualifying for residence, either straight away or down the track? So, what are the sort of requirements there, and how do you see them sort of getting into that residence, the being set for residence in New Zealand?
Okay, so the first thing that engineers need to do is definitely get their overseas qualification assessed. It's the first thing. While they try to get a job, so maybe doing both things together. Give yourself maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever you set your things for. So if you if you get a job offer from overseas, are you able to get a job offer while being overseas? Is first thing you need to be aware of. And otherwise, definitely must have a plan B. And then get your overseas qualification assessed. So if you look at the green list, the occupation on the green list has a set of qualification, which is a mandatory requirement. So now once your qualification assessment has been done, you then need to see whether you are meeting one of the qualification requirements. So in the green list, it's not that if somebody gives you a job as, let's say, a construction project manager, then you are eligible. It doesn't work that way. So if the construction project manager requires you to have a level 7 qualification, bachelor's or equivalent, the XYZ, whatever the occupation is, you need to meet one of those requirements. So then once your qualification is assessed, you go and see whether you are meeting one of those requirements or not. If not, and if you're then thinking of a backup plan to study, then the second option that you will think of is, should I study something which a qualification which aligns more with the green list? So then I have this option as well. That's one option to think. Or should I study a course which gives me two pathways? So maybe I do a master's, and I do a master's which not only is listed as a qualification in one of the green lists, but also will then give me 5 points. So eventually I may have two options. Whichever takes me to the residence the fastest is what you can then consider. Yeah, over to you, Tina.
Thanks. Thanks, Vandana. I think this is another interesting question. So, I did my PhD in zoology, but could not continue work in the field. So, I changed my domain to ECCE. I'm assuming that's early childhood education. And I have a diploma in early childhood. So, for NZQA, which one should I get assessed? That's the first part of the question. And the second part is, as backup plan, can I go for a PG diploma in early childhood? Would I be eligible for that?
Okay, so we would definitely like to get in touch with you because there are so many ways wherein you could be eligible. So definitely, if you ask me which qualification, I would say definitely the highest qualification you must get assessed, which is your PhD. And then if you are thinking of an alternate option, what if it doesn't work and if I have to study? So for studying, definitely you need to assess your bachelor's as well, because a lot of teaching qualifications here in New Zealand require you to have a bachelor's, which is assessed at level 7, and has 360 credits. So, and when we get a teaching qualification assessed by NZQA, we kind of get a package with NZQA that therein wherein you assess your teaching qualification and they would assess two other qualifications in that package free of cost. So that's how it works. So in that case, if you have a EC qualification, maybe better idea to get the teaching qualification assessed, and the two qualification which you can then get assessed in the package could be your PhD and your bachelor's as well. So we can work together with you to see what works in this way, whether you can get your registration with teaching council with your overseas teaching qualification. Do you think you can get a job? Alternatively, why do you think you should study a PG diploma? Maybe study a course which leads to a teaching registration. So be it PG diploma, be it a master's, be it a graduate diploma, you have to very carefully select a course which definitely leads you to a teaching registration. That could be a very good backup plan, I would say.
Okay, the next one is what should be the age limit of dependent children to be eligible for free education while a parent is a student in New Zealand? So I can take that. Basically, to be considered a dependent child under the temporary entry sort of visa, the child needs to be less than 20 years of age. So they could be 19 years and 11 months, and up until that time, they're considered dependent children. The minute that they turn 20 or older than 20, they're no longer dependent and they will have to qualify for a visa in their own rights. Okay. Vandana, would you like to also talk a bit about the healthcare sector agreement and what are the residence pathways under that?
Okay, so thanks, Tanuva. In the healthcare sector agreement, so if somebody is working as a healthcare worker, getting the salary as which is a level 4 salary, which is 28.25 currently. So if they get a level 4 salary, they work as a caregiver, work in that position for 2 years, they are then eligible for residence visa under this sector agreement as well. So just like transport agreement, this sector agreement would also be reviewed. So anybody who's thinking of then initiating a path, thinking that they would eventually be eligible, should be aware of the review process and must also have a backup plan, is what I would say. Over to you, Tanuva.
Okay. Um, okay, we've got somebody who's asking, is there a way to register for immigration from Turkey to New Zealand? So I guess if you can apply for migration, so most of the applications are online, so you could be just about present anywhere. If you're talking about the registration process, then for each different occupation, there is a different process that goes in for registration. So you will need to visit the website, of that particular board or of that particular body to understand what the registration requirements are. Some of them allow you to apply for the registration online, so you could do it by being anywhere in the world. And some of them require to be present in New Zealand, but that is something which is very different across occupations. You really have to check that. Okay, we've done that. Okay, how much study gap is acceptable if someone is applying for a student visa?
That's a good question, and we keep hearing it all the time. I would say immigration New Zealand has got really no benchmark here. If you have a need to study in your life, immigration New Zealand will understand that. We have processed student visa applications for the oldest would be someone probably 76 years old, as I remember. But be aware, if you're thinking of a residence option, then 55 is the age you need to be aware of. So you should reach there. For somebody who really want to study and they really don't have residence as one of the goals, probably you could study whenever you feel the need in your life to study, as I would say. You need to be mindful that Immigration New Zealand would definitely check if you are a bona fide student. What are the skill gaps that you identified? Why do you need to study? What progression do you think this course will add on to your profile? These are the things which you need to justify. Gaps, they don't really, there's no way that they would say, okay, you've left your bachelor's or you did your last master's 20 years back. Why do you want to study now? Is not a question we've ever heard Immigration New Zealand asking. Yeah. Over to you, Tanu.
Thank you. So we did have a couple of people asking us how can we help them get a New Zealand visa. So if you think that you qualify for a visa under the various sort of categories that we've talked about today, or if you think that you would like to pursue the study to residence pathway and you need our help, guidance, etc. with that, please feel free to write to us at contact@nzimmigration.info. So if you write to us, then we will definitely be in touch so that we can help you, guide you, and also sort of help you on your way to getting the visa. But yes, one thing, we don't really look or assist you with getting jobs in New Zealand. That is something that you would have to do, sitting offshore. Which is why I guess it can be difficult, it can be challenging, which is why perhaps getting a foot into the door by the study pathway may be an option that you actually seriously do think about. Okay. There is a question is what will be if a child turns 18 halfway through when the parent has yet to obtain the resident status? If a child is 16 or 17 at the time of migrating. So I'm not sure what it is that you're asking, but for residence visas, you can include your child as a dependent in the application till they're less than 25 years of age. So whether they are 18, 16, or 17 will not really matter, except that you might need to actually prove that they are financially dependent on you. That would be the only sort of requirement. But for residence, immigration, New Zealand is not looking at 18 as an adult child, but more like more than 25 as an adult child. Okay, so we've done that. Also, could we talk about a little bit about the teachers and how immigration, or what are the pathways there for teachers, and what are changes that have happened and what are the requirements?
Yeah, so teachers, all the sectors are in the green list. So teachers, whether it is ECE, whether it's primary or it's secondary, all three are listed in the green list. So very recently, and the teachers are currently on the tier 2, that is the work to residence path. Very recently, the secondary school teachers were moved up to tier 1, that is straight to residence um, pathway. What that means is if somebody has a registration to teach as in New Zealand, they have a registration with the Teaching Council of New Zealand. They can then find a job as a teacher. And if it's an EC or a primary teacher, they can work for 2 years and then apply for residence. If it's a secondary teacher, they can straight away apply for residence. A lot of times, teachers realize that getting overseas qualification assessed by NZQ and getting a registration with the teaching council was still a possibility. But sometimes when you don't have a similar teaching learning experience, it gets a bit difficult for you to get a job as a teacher straight away. So a lot of teachers also then plan to do a course which leads to a teaching registration here in New Zealand. So if you do a master's in teaching secondary or a master's in teaching primary or a grad dip in teaching ECE, you could then get your post-study work visa, and then in that duration, get your registration sorted, get a job, and eventually apply for a residence as a teacher as well. So a teacher with the master's qualification, if they're teaching in a primary sector, let's say, or a EC sector, would then have two options. One is under the green list. If they work as a teacher for 2 years in primary or EC, they can apply for residence. They also have an alternate path through the skilled migrant category residence visa. So already have a master's, 5 points, they work as a teacher 1 year, straight away apply for residence thereafter. And as I've conveyed previously, secondary teachers, again, do a master's in teaching secondary on a post-study work visa. The moment you get a job as a secondary school teacher, you can straight away apply for residence. So few options for teachers as requested.
Okay. Now, the last question we're going to take, because we're running out of time now, which is, I'm a bachelor's degree holder and I would like to study to get my residency. I would just like to know if I could take my teenage daughter with me and my 7-year-old son as dependents. Will that be possible if I study and work part time at the same time? If I bring two dependents for my student visa pathway?
Yeah, I would like to clarify a few things here. We need to see whether you're coming with your dependent children. We also need to see the whether the other parent of the dependent children would also be applying for a partnership based work visa. So how it happens is in New Zealand, the dependent child student visa is an option which dependent children of work visas have. So if somebody is relocating as a family, because one of the partner gets a partnership based work visa, then the dependent children get an option to apply for a domestic fee paying student visa. So at times when only one parent is coming with dependent children, they may have to wait for the parent to finish study and post-study work visa to be able to support the dependent children for a domestic fee-paying study. So at times we need to work out those options. A lot of times when one parent is coming, the children can come here as international fee-paying student visas. So both can study, and eventually when the parent finishes the study and move on to the work visa, then the child can continue to study, but as a free study on a domestic fee paying. So we definitely need to get more details to see whether the child would be eligible for a domestic fee-paying student visa right away when you're studying, or eventually when you finish your study and move on to the post-study work visa. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, great. That sort of brings us to the end of our webinar. Uh, I guess what the snapshot of our webinar today has been that there are residence pathways, but one of the mandatory sort of requirements is a skilled offer of employment from New Zealand, irrespective of which pathway you want to go under. Sitting offshore might be a little difficult to get that offer of employment, but it doesn't mean that there is no hope, because there is one other pathway that is available, which is you can definitely consider studying in New Zealand and use that pathway for you and your family to move to New Zealand. So studying could get you a lot more advantages. You can get you can upskill yourself. Your partner gets work rights. Your dependent children are able to study for free in New Zealand. So there are a lot of these advantages as well. Plus, having being in New Zealand, there is just a high sort of possibility or probability to get that offer of employment. That is a requirement for any of the residence options. So anyway, thank you all for making that time to attend this webinar today. It is late in some parts of the world that we've got people from here. If you still have more questions, our email ID that you could write to us at our contact at nzimmigration.info. Please do write to us with your queries, and we will definitely get back to you on that. So thank you all. Thank you for taking out the time. Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Ms. Vanna, for your pearls of wisdom and all the information, the huge, all the information that you've provided to us today. So thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Siddharth, we really appreciate the efforts that you've taken to bring together this webinar. And I could see a lot of interest in the attendees. Would you like to say a few words to the attendees, please?
Well, first of all, thank you, Ms. Vandana. Thank you, Tanuva and Mr. Himanshu, for giving us time and explain briefly about NZ migration. So, my idea is like this, with this whole New Zealand immigration webinar is for those people like who are really looking forward to migrate to New Zealand, or maybe like they are trying for other countries, but they're not getting the way through. So this is the best way to move forward and looking for like a better future prospects for themselves and their family members. So this is something which is concrete and wherein people can trust and apply. So anyone who is looking forward to, they can just approach us, and then we will take it further.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.